Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Project ARISE RDRS Informational Series. Today we have guests from Amplify to tell us all about their screener, mCLASS, and we're so glad that you're here today. Just a little bit about Project ARISE before we get started. Project ARISE provides professional learning for educators across the state of California at no cost. And so we have some amazing content partners across the state who help us deliver this professional learning. And wow, just look at that. Look at that group of amazing content partners. We do want to make sure that you're aware of our free online courses that are available to all California educators at no cost. They support students with executive functioning, literacy is equity, the foundational skills of reading and comprehension, as well as what happens when students are not learning in that first instruction and how to support them with intensive intervention. And so these are available to educators for free. And Julie will be putting the link in the chat for how you can register for those courses. Additionally, we have some workshops and a community of practice to support educators. In fact, today, this afternoon, we have a literacy workshop centering around biliteracy instruction. So it's not too late to register for our biliteracy workshop that's happening this afternoon at 3:30. Or you could register and receive the recording after the session. Just a couple resources for you in this adoption process. We know that your timeline is very short and you're doing a lot of learning and figuring out within these next couple months. So the adoption toolkit that's been developed by our CISC, ELA, and ELD subcommittee is available to you with tools in there to help you through this adoption process. We also pulled the screening instrument review chart to help you kind of take notes on each of the screeners during these sessions. So there is a copy of that in the chat if you'd like to jot down some notes today. And finally, after our session today, we'll be sending out this resource one-pager that has the information from all four of the screeners as it comes available. We'll be sharing the recording, the slides from today's session, as well as the website and ways that you can reach out to Amplify if you're interested in piloting and trying out their screening products. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Jolene from Amplify. Welcome, Jolene.
Thank you. And hello, everybody. So yes, my name is Jolene Horry, and I'm here to explain how mCLASS works. So I know that many of you have probably dibbled in your lifetime. I'm here to tell you DIBELS has changed. It is now digital. So for the teachers out there that have done this before, it's no longer trying to figure out all the scoring and such. Everything is automatic. So explaining what mCLASS is. It is a universal screener. We do give our screener 3 times a year, a BOY, an MOY, and an EOY. We want to show growth from BOY to MOY to EOY. We have progress monitoring built into our program as well. So teachers, once you get that universal screener complete, then you'll have some small groups, you will teach the instructional piece, and then you'll progress monitor it. We also have the dyslexia screening, which is why everybody is here today. And I'm going to be addressing that in a few minutes. We have automatic grouping. So once you screen everybody, then the device will take all that data and it will automatically group your students according to their gaps. So if they fall into that phonemic awareness group or a decoding group, it will automatically come up for you so that you can start teaching right away. We also have an instruction piece to go with it. So if you have a group that is working on phonemic awareness, we have instructional activities that are aligned to those deficits that the students are presenting. And this is can be considered a tier 2 intervention in the classroom. So most classroom teachers have small group instruction. These instructional activities are roughly 8 to 10 minutes long, and it's perfect for the classroom teacher during those times that we need to start closing those gaps. We also have leadership reports. Not only leadership reports, we have teacher reports, we have caregiver reports, which I'm going to show you today as well. But everything's all in one tool. You don't have to go to a lot of places. You just have to log into mCLASS. So for those of you that have never DIBELed before, DIBELS actually stands for something. It stands for the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. We have our companion for Spanish, which is called Lectura, and it follows how students learn to read in Spanish. It's not a translation of DIBELS. It is how the students read in Spanish. The process is the same. All the products that you get within mCLASS are the same. So it's pretty wonderful. So it's teacher administered and it's digitally scored. It is very efficient and precise. As I said, you will get an instant score. The minute you complete a minute measure with a student, you will see the score of that student. Once the whole class has been given these measures, then you will see your groupings, and then you will see your lessons as well. The data is granular. It's not just going to tell you that Jolene needs phonemic awareness. It's going to tell you Jolene can't segment blends in phonemic awareness or can't segment ending blends in phonemic awareness. And it will give you the instructional tools so that you can close that gap for me at that level. We have actionable reports for teachers, leaders, and caregivers. So even for our caregivers, we give them tools to help their students at home. And then, as I said before, it's complete parity in English and Spanish. Spanish is called Lectura. So here is how it works. The teacher has to have a device. It does not have to be a touch screen. Touch screens are easier, but I haven't used a touch screen for a very long time. I use a laptop with my trackpad. It's whatever you are comfortable with. If you are comfortable with a desktop with a mouse, you can use a desktop with a mouse. You can use your phone. If you want to use your phone, you can use it as well. Now, as far as the students will have forms that we provide for you. You can get the printed materials within our platform. In trainings, we show teachers, we have something called a PD library. We show teachers where to go and how to download the forms for the students. We also have, you can get them free at the University of Oregon. They are the researchers of mCLASS, so you can get them free there as well. And we also have paid products that you can get booklets for the teachers as well. So here are the measures at each grade level. We have 4 measures at grade K. We have 5 measures at grade 1. In grade 2 and 3, we have 4. And then grade 4 and above, we have oral reading fluency, and we have something called the maze for those students. I know you can't see this screen that well. I know it's very small print, but it's just here to show you that we have pretty much the measures that are the same, but not the same for Lectura as well. You will also see performance descriptors. So when you get what we call a composite score, when you have completed all the measures, you will see a blue composite or a green composite score for those students at benchmark and above. Those are the students that are receiving core instruction. They probably won't need that tier 2 small group instruction. If you have time to meet with them, great, but core, they're learning when you're teaching. Who we are concerned about are those kids that are strategic, below benchmark and well below benchmark. Those kids that are below benchmark, they are the group that really do well in class with that small group instruction, as well as some of our intensive students. It's our intensive students that we need to consider for those dyslexia screeners. So for you teachers out there, once you have given all the measures to your students, you're going to see a performance descriptor, and it may be red. And the students that have a red performance descriptor those are the students that you are going to consider for our 4 dyslexia screeners. Even within our screener itself, the one that we give to all students, as you can see in the box here, it says the researchers have worked to ensure that many of the DIBELS subtests are validated as measures for critical dyslexia screening areas. And so we have some of our pieces are letter naming fluency, nonsense word fluency, phonemic segmentation fluency, word reading fluency, and oral reading fluency. What a teacher does, the teacher logs in and they log into teacher administered assessment. Once they log into teacher administered assessment, they see a portal here. So I'm going to show you that portal. So here's our portal. A teacher will see their class list. We give every teacher a demo account. So we have a drop down here. You'll see your name and your grade level or grade levels. If you are an interventionist, you can see your groups that you have created within the system. So we can also create groups for our support interventionists on site. We have benchmarking. So you'll have a benchmark window. And then once that benchmark window has closed, then teachers start progress monitoring. So we would click that toggle here. But here is my class. And so when we look at a class, I'm going to show you one particular student that hasn't been DIBELed yet. And what you see are these blue boxes. And as you see them, you teachers, you start at the top and you work your way down. We have a wonderful gating system within mCLASS, whereas we don't want to over assess. And so we start at the top and we work our way down. And once we get to, let's say for a first grader, when we get to word reading fluency, notice we have a light blue box here. The light blue boxes are not clickable. However, if I give word reading fluency and a student they didn't do anything, they got a 0, this box is going to remain grayed out. They're not ready. If they can't read words, they are not ready for an oral reading fluency. We always can bypass the system. We know that there are some districts that want an oral reading fluency from every teacher at every benchmark, so you can bypass the system. But if you don't have to give an oral reading fluency, you're saving frustration on the part of the student, and you're also saving time for yourself. When we get to that middle of the year, we expect first graders to know sounds, and so we start at letter sounds. If a student does really well at letter sounds, then they will not have to take the PSF or the LNF. There's no point to assessing them in those measures. We don't want to over-assess, as I said. The students that don't do well, we will have to reassess in phonemic awareness and letter naming fluency because we want to stay on top of it. So that's the same thing at EOY. It works the same at every grade level. Okay, so I'm going back to my slides. So that is considered the screener. Also notice we have an oral language at the bottom. It is not part of the composite, so you won't get a composite score until you do all of the measures. And once you give all of the measures, get that, that composite score, now you're thinking, okay, I need to consider the dyslexia screeners, and oral language may be one of those screeners that you choose to give. It is on the teacher device, and I'm going to show you the other screeners right now so that you can see how they work as well. So we have our dyslexia screeners. That's why we're all here today, I do believe. So we have oral language, we have spelling, we have RAN, and we have vocabulary. You saw that oral language, it was on the teacher device. If you want to consider oral language as one of your dyslexia screeners, then you would go there. It looks like this, where there are 21 sentences. You read the sentence to the student, and they try to repeat the sentence back to you. And as they're repeating that sentence, you can put in any substitutions. I put candy for cookie. They omit words, if they insert words, if they repeat words, if they self-correct. I want you to know that oral language efficiently identifies students in grades K to 2 who will likely struggle with the language structures that are foundational to comprehending early reader texts understanding interpersonal communication, and writing. So that might be a consideration. Now we're moving to what we're calling the student online measures, which is the maze. The maze is part of the universal screener for grade 2 and above. That is already pushed onto student devices. That is a measure that is the only one that's not 3 minutes as far as our original screener. The students go onto their own device, they put on a headset. We have an owl that will be their narrator and move them through the measure. Our other 3 student online measures are part of the dyslexia screeners. We have mCLASS spelling, mCLASS RAN, mCLASS vocabulary. You see an asterisk right here to tell you for kindergarten. Most kindergartners don't come in spelling. I know I taught kindergarten for many years, but many do, but most don't, I'm going to say. So hold off on spelling until MOY. I would probably even hold off on the RAN in kindergarten if they do not know their numbers. We use numbers for the RAN. We use 5 numbers. And if you have a student that doesn't know their numbers yet, you might want to hold off until the end of the year. But you can give it at the beginning of the year if they do know numbers. Okay, so let's move on to these teacher administered assessments. They're student online. So we were here originally for that universal screener. We were on our teacher device and we gave it on our device. Students had a form in front of them and everything went well. Now we're considering those dyslexia screeners. So we go over here to student online assessment. We see a screen that looks like this. We see the screeners here, vocabulary, spelling, and the RAN. Our class list is down the left-hand side, and you can choose, based on those students that were intensive, you choose the screener that you want to give. And once you click that box and it turns purple, it's then pushed on to the student device, and it's ready to go. So the first one that I was talking about was spelling. It's on the student device now. So the teacher really doesn't have to be there just to oversee and make sure the child is doing okay. It is not timed, so they can take as long as they want. The narrator is the owl, and the owl will explain everything. They will practice with the student, and then they will start giving words. The students will use these letter tiles to spell those words and click OK as they move through. So that's mCLASS spelling. Now, what I want you to know about mCLASS spelling is that here we have an example of our reports, a teacher report, and we're showing a student, Leah Crane. She noticed she did not do well in that original screener, the universal screener, and so she was considered for those dyslexia screeners. Her teacher gave all 4 dyslexia screeners, and of the 4, spelling, notice here, was 22. It is well below benchmark. So when the student has a spelling score that's well below benchmark, along with the composite score that is well below benchmark, on the teacher roster within the reports, they will have a risk predictor. So you will see this next to a student's name, kind of tell the teacher that this student is at risk for reading difficulties or at risk for dyslexia. We're moving on to the RAN. The RAN looks like this. It is also on the student device because we pushed it on there. The teacher absolutely has to be sitting next to the student for the RAN. The student will be listing off, it's only 5 numbers. The students will be reading off these numbers. And as the student is reading the numbers, the teacher is either clicking that they got the number right or they got the number wrong. There is no color coding, so the student isn't going to see whether something was red or something was green. The teacher is just clicking as they're moving along and trying to process and name these numbers. This is not timed. They do have to read every single line, but the timing is considered for the score that they get. So as you can see here, here's another student from a teacher report, John Bell. For the RAN, this student got 224. He took a very long time moving through those numbers, indicating that he may have a phonological processing issue. So again, the RAN being red and the composite score being red, on the teacher roster within the reports, it's going to show that there is a risk indicator. And then we have vocabulary. There are 3 parts to the vocabulary. For kindergartners, it starts with, well, for everybody, it starts with questions, just 2 questions. A kindergartner can, or a first grader can get a question like, can you adopt a new pet? So thinking about, will they understand what adopt means? And they'll either click thumbs up or they'll click thumbs down. All right. So here we start, K1 and 2. They start with 2 questions. The teacher doesn't have to be sitting next to them. Again, it is not timed, so they can move through as they wish. Most teachers will oversee, make sure everything's going well. So the kindergartners only get 2 questions, and then they're done. The first grade and second grader will move on to the next level, which is called fill in the blank. The owl will read through these sentences in the box, and the student has to choose the correct sentence the correct word, to make that sentence make sense. And then first grade is done. And our second graders move on to the third part, which is a basic definition where they will see a word in the box at the top, and they will choose the definition for that word. And that is mCLASS vocabulary. So those are our dyslexia screeners. I'm going to just show you a little bit about instruction. So I'm going to go back to mCLASS. And here is our data. We have Karen Ashdown. She has completed. She got a green composite. She won't be considered for the dyslexia screeners. So when we go to these reports, teachers have, these are teacher reports. There's all kinds of great tools in here, which we won't go over today. You'll see benchmarking. So you'll see a summary of how your students did overall. You will see your class list. You will see all the measures, the universal screener and the dyslexia measures over off to the right. You will see your class list in alphabetical order. Maybe I don't want to look at them alphabetically. Maybe I want to group all my red students together, my yellow, my green, and my blue. So I'm going to click this button here, and it has shown me all my red students. So notice, I'm showing you this screen so that you'll notice not all students that are intensive will have a risk indicator. They are fine. They just need more small group instruction by the teacher. Okay. The next thing I'm going to show you, and teachers, teachers out there, I'm not going to show you progress monitoring and instruction, but these are the grouping tools and the instructional activities. This is where you would see those, and it's a pretty great program. I do want to show you the Home Connect. So the Home Connect is our letter that we send home or share with our caregivers, I should say. Most districts use them for parent conferences or even before parent conferences. They're in English and in Spanish. I'm going to click on Samir because I want to show you the data that, because he took those screeners, the dyslexia screeners, I want to show you evidence of that. So I'm just going to click Samir here, and then I'm going to download that PDF. Okay. And as I open it up and make it larger so that you can see, this is a parent-friendly letter. It tells the parent why Samir is being assessed. What do the below assessments mean? And the teacher would walk through what they mean and how their child scored. The teacher will then explain where they're going to start small group instruction for this student. They're going to start at the lowest deficit skill, and it is not letter naming fluency. We don't have progress monitoring in letter naming fluency. We start at phonemic awareness. So that's where we're going to start. So we'll tell the parent, that's where we're going to start with Samir. That's where we're going to support him a lot. So here, parent, for you are some activities that you can do at home. And remember, we're focusing on phonemic awareness, and the teacher will probably have to explain a little about what phonemic awareness is, but there are some activities they can do with their child. We also have a website that we tell the the parents or caregivers that they can go to. And because it was phonemic awareness for Samir, the caregiver will click on phonological awareness, and there are more games at home or on the go. These are in English and in Spanish. So that is how our teacher reports look. So I'm going to go back here so I can show you a little bit more about the dual language side or the Spanish side. So we have the Spanish side as well. You get all the instruction, you get the home connects, you get everything. But the nice thing is for those that have dual language, we have dual language side-by-side reports. So as you can see here, this student did pretty well in Spanish and is working on his English, but this is to show that this student isn't destined for special ed. They need support with their English skills. So in this report, that is going to support the teacher to support the student in biliteracy development. So you will see that. And as they click, it will tell the teacher what strong skills they have and what they can do for their student. And then we have the wonderful leadership reports. Our leaders, we have a few reports. I'm going to see if mine will pop up here. I go here, I'm going to go to reporting. So here we have these leadership reports. And we have two types of reports. We have those where administrators on school sites, they can look to see if the teachers are indeed getting the measures completed. It's so that an administrator doesn't have to go door to door to door to say, have you completed your measures? Have you completed the measures? You can look at your computer, you can see the completion report. You know, when you get towards the end of that window, if there are teachers that still haven't started the measures, then you would go see a teacher to say, do you need my support? Do you need help from somebody? We also have progress monitoring fidelity reports so that, again, an administrator can check in to see are teachers progress monitoring those students that have these deficits in their ability to read. We also have reports, of course, with all this data that is being compiled. We have a report that's called Comparing Populations. We have a correlation report, and we have a Comparing Measures report. For some school districts, they want to know if they can do other things with their data. So you can always download your data into a CSV file. You can save these reports. So I have on my reports, so that you don't always have to keep recreating the reports. You can create your initial report. You can then add to it. You can edit it. You can just keep saving it because there are a lot of parameters that you have to click in order to build this report, and you don't want to keep building those parameters over and over again. So we're going to see if this loads in the next couple seconds. If it doesn't, I have some screenshots of the correlation report that I'm going to show you. So it looks like I'm going to back to my slides and I'm going to show you. Oh, here we go. Here we go. It's loading onto my screen. So we'll wait a few seconds. So as you can see, you can save reports to My Reports. You can share your reports with whoever you want to share them with. You can create PDFs in case you wanted to give a paper version and share paper versions with. I used many of these reports. I was a coach, a literacy coach, and we would have conferences with teachers about their data. So I would literally just print out the report, and that's how we would build our small group instruction. You can put it in an Excel file, and then you can always edit it. So in this particular report, we need two data points. The other reports, you just can have one data point. But I like this report so much, I just feel like I have to share it. So we need two data points, meaning we need a BOY and an MOY. And as you can see here, or a BOY and an EOY, you just need two data points. We're just showing one teacher here. Here is the BOY results and the MOY results. So Andy Brown is the teacher that we're looking at. He had 6 students that were red. Of those 6 students that were red, 33% at MOY remained red. 50% of those intensive students moved up to yellow, which is pretty great, and 17%, wow, moved up to green. Of the 4 students that were yellow at BOY, 75% moved up to green and 25 moved up to blue. Of the 3 students that were green at BOY, those 3 students remained at green, which is good. The 2 students that were blue at a BOY remained blue at MOY. This is a success story. This Andy Brown has been doing a fine job, but this will also show drops from blue to yellow, from green to red. So we will see those types of reports as well. All of these are clickable. I'm not going to click on them, but when you do click on them, it will give you're wondering, who are these 33%? So you can click to see. It will show the students, a list of students, and it will show you their scores, their composite scores, and how they did on the measures. As I go back to my slides, I will kind of click through here. This is what the parameters look like. So at the district level, at admin level, you can look by district, you can look by classroom, you can look by school, you can look by teacher. So there's many ways you can view this data. You can have your grade divider on or off. I like head count. I often click that button. It feels like we're dealing with real human beings. You can pick your grade level, one grade level, all grade levels. At the district level, you could look at one school, you can look at all schools, you can look at one teacher, you can look at all teachers. As I was showing you that particular measure that I was just showing you, I was looking at composite scores. Maybe at the district level, you would want to pick some schools and look at just phonemic awareness. How are our schools doing there? Then you pick the school year, and then for this one, the 2 data points, and then you would update report or create report for those of you that want to share your data. So you would, if you wanted to look at these reports by English proficiency or by gender or by EL status, this is data that you would have to share with Amplify in order for you to create these, use these student filters, and then you update your report. And then here again is that report that I just showed you. So that is everything mCLASS, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Jolene.
Yes.
We have a lot of questions coming up in the Q&A, so hopefully you and Lisa will be able to answer some for us. We're receiving a lot of questions about the series of assessments that you shared versus what's been approved by the state. And so we know that all K2 students are required to take the screener per the legislation. And so can you clarify what is specifically approved to meet those requirements?
So my understanding is that you're going to screen everyone with that initial screener. Once you screen all students, then you'll notice that you have a red composite score, which we call well below benchmark. Of those students that are well below benchmark, you're going to consider the 4 dyslexia screeners. You don't have to give them all. You can choose the ones that you want to give, and most people want to give the RAN, but maybe you want to consider language. Maybe you want to give the oral language screener. So did that answer your question about how it all works?
So just to clarify, by giving the screener at the beginning and getting that composite score, that meets the requirements, is
Yes.
what I'm hearing. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
There were several questions around guidance for determining how best to assess our multilanguage learners. Specifically, do they need to take both? There's just some confusion about your recommendations around guidance there.
Oh,
Around-
for if you have like Spanish speakers as well as English speakers, or is that what the question is about?
Lisa, you've seen the questions come through. I think you're
I-
ready to answer that.
I'm sorry, I was desperate to keep up with the questions. I'm assuming we're speaking about Spanish, and it is really the choice of the district. Do you want to administer the assessments in English and in Spanish? It depends on your dual immersion model. The value of administering the English measures and the measures for Spanish literacy are that you will get a composite score for both languages, and you can generate a report so you see that those scores side by side. So for example, if a student performed below grade level with DIBELS in English, now I can look at that Spanish score and see, oh, the student is proficient in their native language. This could be a language acquisition issue, as opposed to they score below level in their native language well, or as in Spanish well. There might be something more going on. But it's really a choice. You can choose, especially at some of your DLI sites, to only administer the Lectura measures for certain grades. And then Lectura is approved as a screener for reading difficulties on its own.
Similarly, what different languages are the family reports available in?
We just have them in English and in Spanish.
Okay, thank you.
There are several questions around cost.
Oh,
That's a Lisa question.
I'd be happy to talk about that. And if everyone's okay, I'll explain a little bit about professional development offerings too, because we do have some kind of a special offering for everyone in California. So the licenses are $9 per student per year for a 1-year contract. If you do a 2 or more year contract, to a multi-year contract, then the licenses are $7 per student per year. If you want to administer both languages to a student, so they're getting 2 measures, then we add $5 to the cost of a license. So it would be 7 plus 5, it would be $12 for a multi-year contract, or $14 for a 1-year contract. And that would only be the students who would be receiving both languages. Now, all of your K2 licenses could be free the first year of your implementation with the purchase of one of our PD bundles. So the minimum professional development requires for this program is 6 hours. We spend 3 full hours with teachers and anyone who's going to administer the measures. We want to give everyone hands-on practice in that training. We want you to leave feeling confident that you know how to score and administer these measures. The second 3 hours is to look into reports, progress monitoring, and the instruction that's all included in the platform. So that those 6 hours PD would be your minimum PD. But our PD bundle, in addition to that 6 hours, we would add another 3-hour session on a data-driven classroom or implementing a data-driven culture in your district. And that would be kind of for district leaders. In addition to that session, we will add a full day of an mCLASS coach coming to your district. That coach's time will be 100% focused on what are your district's priorities, objectives, where are you experiencing challenges. So you have a coach for a full day who could go to sites, work with teachers, could work with you in any way you want. So I just really love the support we're offering you for that bundle. That bundle would be $8,900 for 30 teachers, but with the purchase of that bundle, all of your K2 licenses would be no charge for 1 year.
Thank you, Lisa. There are also some, just if you could clarify about administration. What does it look like to give the test? Is it one-to-one? Can you do it remotely or virtually? And what tools are needed in order to do that?
Okay, good question. So, as I said, teacher needs some kind of device. And then you will need the forms. The teacher will need the forms. And as I said, you can purchase them. We have them in booklets. You can purchase them from Amplify. But we also share with teachers how to, we have them free within our PD library. We also, as I said, you can go to University of Oregon and you can download them free from University of Oregon as well. And so you will need these forms, which are printed out on paper. We suggest teachers put them in a sheet protector because you're going to be using forms over and over and over again for every student in your classroom. Okay, so once you have the correct form, and it will list, the form will have on the bottom of it what measure you're giving. And then let's say I'm going to assess Karen. I'm not going to assess Karen because she's already been assessed. Let's look at Lee. So here is Lee. All I do is I'm on the platform. I'm on benchmark. And so I'm going to just click on the blue box. In training, we explain all of these reminders that this is a minute, that this, another time-saving measure that we have is that the student at this particular measure is looking at letters and they're naming letters. If the student doesn't name any letters in the first row, which are the easiest letters, then a hand will come up on your device to say, you know what, you might want to stop this measure right now. And so you can stop it, or we always give you the option of continuing on. And then we go to instructions. We have Mr. Say. You say what Mr. Say says. This is a nationally normed assessment. And we want a level playing field for all students. So we want a script so it can be the same for everybody. So we say, here are some letters. Tell me the names of as many letters as you can. When I say begin, start here and go across the page. Point to each letter and tell me the name of that letter. If you come to a letter you don't know, I'll tell it to you. Put your finger on the first letter. So you have to make sure that the student is either next to you or a catty corner to you, not across the table from you. And then you go to the measure. You start that assessment. You don't need a timer. There is a built-in timer for you. There's even a 3-second hesitation timer for, we want, if kids hesitate, we got to give them 3 seconds to think about it before we mark it wrong. But basically, they're listing off letters. And we have another one that's the same as this, but words. And then if the letter is wrong, you click it. If another letter is wrong, you click it. If they self-correct, you click it again and it self-corrects itself. And then you just keep moving on. If you're click crazy, you click it a third time and everything disappears. If students skip a line, as many of our kindergartners will skip a line, that's another reason why you want the student next to you, because you're here and they're somewhere else. And so you want to figure out what's going on. You just click that X. That's a warning screen to say you're almost done, teacher, and then end of assessment. And that's how it works. It stops. Let's say the student stopped at T. All I do is put my finger. I have a laptop. I don't have a touch screen. So touch screen is easy. You just put your finger on the letter. I just hold my finger down on my trackpad. A bracket occurs. I click done. And then voila, I have an instant score. So that's how it works. And as you move through all of these, as I said, then you're going to get that composite score. So for the teachers out there, best to, do one measure, especially KN1, one measure for everybody so that you get the best results. Kindergartners and first grade students get fatigued after a few measures. So I would just do one at a time for every class, but that's just experience. That's not something you have to do. And that's how it works.
Thank you, Jolene.
Yeah.
Lisa, there are many questions in the Q&A, and I know that some of them you wanted to be able to answer live. And so I want to turn it over to you and say, what would you like to answer live for the group?
You know, there was one question I accidentally clicked answer live instead of typing my answer. And I am not sure if I can retrieve that one. But I think it is worth just taking a moment to clarify. Amplify is the company that created the mCLASS platform about 20 years ago. It was specifically developed to make administering DIBELS easier for educators. Anyone who has ever administered DIBELS in the past, paper pencil, knows the assessor must do many calculations and create their own reports before they can get to a point where I have data that I can now act on, on behalf of my student. So Amplify was a company called Wireless Generation. And, about 20, 25 years ago, Wireless Generation created this platform to take the work off educators' laps, to be used with a Palm Pilot, to make administering easier for educators. mCLASS stands for mobile classroom. It refers to that Palm Pilot, kind of freeing teachers from their desk and their calculator. So over the course of the last 20 years, we have rebranded ourselves as Amplify. We have, branched out into some of the core subject areas, curriculum-wise, but really mCLASS remains our flagship product. And so mCLASS is the platform. Your assessment system here is DIBELS, the 8th edition of DIBELS, which has been nationally normed and enhanced for, more than 2 decades. What has been approved by the state is using DIBELS to benchmark all your K-2 students. That is the first pass. You are compliant with the legislation when you benchmark all your students. Now, once you have your composite scores, a certain percentage of your students are going to be performing below grade level or far below grade level. You would definitely want to administer the measures for reading difficulties to the students who are far below grade level. And you might choose to also administer those to your students in the yellow, the below grade level. But that's how you will get, I'm sure I was typing furiously and not paying attention. Jolene showed you where that exclamation point, shows up. You could have students in the red, so maybe only half of them have the exclamation point. So even though they were operating below grade level, that additional measure for assessing their risk for reading difficulty did not bring up the exclamation point. So it's really a two-pronged approach.
And just to clarify, those 4 additional measures are local decisions around what to use.
Yes, thank you. I think the RAN is kind of your go-to. And then when the flag shows up, those 3 additional measures can give you more information. You might want to send this student to special education, and you might want to provide the special education department more in-depth data about that student profile. While we spoke about the RAN, I did see a question in the chat about, is there a possibility of not using numbers if they are using pictures or shapes? I do have a response that cites all of the research why we use numbers for the RAN, and I'd be happy to, provide that to Michelle and Julie, and they could probably share that with anyone who would like to see that.
Thank you. A few just technical questions about how to roster students. Do you are districts able to use their single sign-on tools for mCLASS?
Yes, ClassLink. We can roster your students with ClassLink, with Clever, and also Google. If you have Google enabled emails, we can do it that way as well.
Thank you. And then what about with student information systems, with the reports that come after the screening?
Then we don't sync with any platforms automatically. However, any report in the system can be downloaded into a CSV file, which then can be used to upload to any other application.
Thank you.
There's been several questions around an opportunity for districts to pilot the tools.
Yeah, absolutely. We would welcome, to welcome everyone to pilot. I think training is very important. We want you to have a successful pilot experience. So really having the time to work with your teachers so they know how to administer the measures is kind of the biggest challenge around a pilot. If we were talking about implementing for the school year, everyone just has more PD time to give us, right? And it's easier to schedule like a 3-hour chunk of time. But we'll work with you if you want to pilot. I'm going to ask you for as much time as I can, get, close to 3 hours just to train your assessors on how to administer the measures. And then after you go out and benchmark your students, we'd like to reconvene to show you about how to access the instruction, how to view the reports, how you can progress monitor. And we can do that in an hour to an hour and a half, I believe. We'd prefer more time, but we just understand when we're piloting mid-year, folks just have constraints about the amount of time they can provide for PD.
All right, well, we are coming to the end of our session today. So Lisa and Jolene, any kind of last thoughts that you would like to share with the group around DIBELS or mCLASS, anything else that you might want to reiterate for the participants today?
I would like to, if that's okay, Jolene.
Oh, yeah.
I would just like to say that the mCLASS platform, it's so much more than, it can be used as a screener for reading difficulties, but it is so much more than that. The beauty of the DIBELS assessment is the granularity of the data that you receive. I think Jolene mentioned it just won't give you reports on broad, the student's having trouble with phonemic awareness. This student is having trouble hearing that initial sound. You have such specific data. When you benchmark all of your K2 students, you will know exactly where everyone is performing, right? And exactly where their gaps are. This can be your system for managing your MTSS system, your PLCs. It is such a powerful tool for ensuring all of your K2 students are proficient readers, in addition to knowing which students might need extra intervention for a reading difficulty.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to Jolene and Lisa for joining us today to tell us all about mCLASS, DIBELS, and Lectura. We will be sending out a follow-up email with the slides, the recording, all the pieces that you might need from today's session. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.